Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the December 2024 SBIF Rollout webinar. We are excited to have you here today to talk about the SBIF areas that will be open this month and provide you with more information about what the program has to offer. We will get started momentarily, but as a reminder, those of you attending this webinar today will receive a copy of the presentation via email. And if you would like to rewatch this webinar, you can always find it on DPD's YouTube page. And if during the presentation you have any questions, please feel free to place them in the Q&A box, which is located at the bottom of your screen. And we'll get started momentarily. We just want to make sure that we let in everyone else that is looking to join us. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Latanya Jones. I am the Deputy Director of the SBIF program at Summer Corps. Welcome to the December 2024 SBIF webinar. Just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone attending today will receive a copy of the presentation via email. And if you would like to rewatch the presentation, the recorded webinar can be found on the DPD's YouTube page. Please note that if you have any questions during this presentation, there is a Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen, and someone behind the scenes will be responding throughout the webinar, or it will be answered during the Q&A portion of this presentation. And with that, we will turn it over to Nora Curry with DPD for a brief introduction.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending our webinar today. We're so happy that you're here. My name, as Tanya said, is Nora Curry. I'm the SBIF Program Director for the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, or DPD. On behalf of the City of Chicago, thank you for joining us. The Small Business Improvement Fund, known as SBIF, provides grants on a non-reimbursement basis. Excuse me, I'm going to say that again. The SBIF provides grants on a reimbursement basis to small businesses and property owners to make permanent improvements to their properties. Over the last few years, we've made a lot of exciting changes to the SBIF program, including increasing the size of grants available to you and rolling out over $100 million in new funding available in TIF districts all over the city. But one thing that hasn't changed over the years is the ample assistance available to you as a SBIF applicant. Technical assistance is a key strength of this program. And when you submit your application, you will be assigned a Summer Corps project manager. That person is there to help you. If you have questions about your application or run into problems, such as delays with your city permits or issues with your contractor, please call your Summer Corps project manager immediately. They can help you resolve any confusion and roadblocks, and they can also accommodate needed changes to your grant. And you won't run the risk of having your grant removed from the program, your project removed from the program. Your local delegate agency is another great resource. They may be the local Chamber of Commerce or Community Development Corporation that told you about this webinar today. Sylvia will list their names later in the presentation, and like your SBIF project manager, the delegate agencies are here to help you. They can help with the SBIF application itself. They can make introductions to local lenders. They can help you find contractors and guide you generally through the required city processes of the SBIF program. So in general, we are all here to support your application and to help your businesses and your neighborhoods flourish. So please take advantage of those resources. And with that, I'm going to return you to Sylvia for the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nora, and thank you all for joining us today. As she mentioned, my name is Silvia Orozco. I am the Director of the Small Business Improvement Fund with Summer Corps. Summer Corps is a non-for-profit organization. We administer SBA 504 loans, administer the SBIF program, as well as the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program. Now in its 25th year, SBIF is celebrating 25 years of dispersing grants. We have assisted hundreds of business owners, landlords, startup businesses. We've dispersed over $118 million to over 1,900 businesses. Please keep in mind that this is a non-residential grant program. This cannot be used for residential units, cannot be used for operating expenses, equipment, or things of that sort. So we'll speak more about that during the presentation, but thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started. So today we will go over what is SBIF, what is the program mission, the grant parameters, and the project timeline. Getting started, is your business or property in a SBIF district? What SBIF districts are open or on deck? What are the SBIF program rules? How do you apply? And what resources are available to help? Today, we also have the list of December rollouts, the TIP districts that are opening for this month, as well as a sample project. We do have SBIF facts available for you and an additional question and answer session at the end. What is SBIF? Our program mission, launched in 1999, the City of Chicago's Small Business Improvement Fund promotes economic development by providing small businesses and landlords with reimbursement grants for permanent building improvement cost. Residential projects are not eligible. SBIF grant uses local tax increment financing, known as TIF, revenue to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved repair or rehab of their business facilities or adjacent land acquisition. Summer Corps is a program administrator contracted by the city's Department of Planning and Development. What is SBIF grant parameters? Applicant type. The property must be in a TIP district where SBIF funds are available and is authorized to accept applications. Landlords of either commercial or industrial properties are eligible for SBIF. Owners or operators of commercial or industrial businesses whom own their properties, tenants with prior written approval from property owners, and startups may apply with a business plan. A current City of Chicago business license is required prior to final disbursement. Eligibility. Commercial or industrial landlords must have less than $9 million cumulative of net worth and $500,000 maximum per individual for liquid assets. Commercial tenants or owner occupied applicants, their average gross sales must be $9 million or less per year. Industrial tenants or owner occupied businesses must have 200 or fewer full-time employees. All owner-occupied properties are subject to both tenants and landlord requirements. Grant size. $250,000 is the maximum per industrial property. $150,000 is the maximum per commercial property that is occupied by a single owner or tenant. $250,000 is the maximum per commercial property that's occupied by multiple owners or tenants, with $75,000 being the max assistant per individual applicant. SBIF applications and SBIF grants are non-transferable between applicants and/or properties. Applicants who wish to apply for SBIF funds for more than one property must submit separate applications for each property. Applicants may receive one or more grants up to their maximum program assistance. Once this maximum is reached, the applicants will need to wait 3 years to reapply. For commercial businesses, if your sales or net worth falls between $0 to $3 million, you would qualify for 90% of eligible cost. If your sales or net worth fall between 3 to 6 million, you'd qualify for 60% reimbursement of eligible cost. And sales or net worth between $6 to $9 million qualify for 30% reimbursement of eligible cost. All industrial projects receive 50% of eligible cost. Here we have a SBIF grant calculation example. Let's say that Grace submits an application for a SBIF grant in an open district with a total eligible project cost of $100,000. She's proposing to make permanent building improvements to her existing retail shop for which she is a tenant. Grace has been in business for over 5 years. Over the last 3 years, her gross sales have averaged $1.5 million. Here we have a breakdown of eligible cost. Total project costs are at $100,000. As a commercial tenant applicant with gross sales under $3 million, she qualifies for a 90% reimbursement grant. The city's responsibility at 90% is $90,000, and the applicant's responsibility at 10% is $10,000. This is a reimbursement grant, so the project participants should be prepared with financing to support the cost of the permanent building improvements. Applicants are encouraged to contact their business lender or reach out to one of the lenders listed on the Summer Corps' website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to complete their projects in phases rather than covering 100% of the project cost up front. To participate, the grantees must receive an approval for the full scope of work and the phase work schedule. Construction timing will be based on necessity and the contractor's recommendations. Receiving phase disbursements will be based on progress of work. Here we have an example of phasing. So let's say that someone needs to have a new roof, HVAC system, and facade renovations done to their property. With the contract price at $180,000, the applicant qualifies for a 90% reimbursement, maxed out at $150,000. So let's say the applicant does not have $180,000 available to them, but they do have $60,000 to cover the roof. The applicant can use that $60,000 to get the roofing portion of the project completed. They will then receive 90% reimbursement, which equals $54,000. They can use that $54,000 to move on to the second phase, which would be the HVAC system. So once that HVAC system is completed, proof of payments are submitted to Summer Corps. They'll receive a reimbursement of $36,000 for their $40,000 project. So here's the example of the phasing. Again, this is something to help applicants who are not financially feasible to fully complete the project. You can break it out in multiple phases, up to 3 payouts. What is the SBIF project timeline? In stage 1, this is the applicant's eligibility review phase. The applications are completed and applicants prove that they have site control. They're granted up to 20 days to submit the application materials that are requested. If deemed eligible, they are moved to stage 2. This is the project eligibility review, where applicants are required to submit their plans, bids, and specifications, and also cure any debts to the City of Chicago. They're granted up to 120 days to submit these items. We then review that information, and if it is deemed eligible, we move the applicant into stage 3. This is the project construction phase. Once approved by DPD, the applicants receive a conditional commitment letter and the construction can begin. They're granted up to 10 months. Concurrently, the proof of permit or permit application must be submitted within 120 days following the date of the commitment letter. Stage 3.4 is the proof of financing requirement stage. The applicants are required to prove that they have funds to complete their project. They are granted up to 120 days following the date of the commitment letter. Failure to meet the requirements for either permits or financing does mean that the application must be removed. In stage 4, this is the reimbursement stage, where the projects should be completed at this point. Payment documentation, including a sworn statement, invoices, canceled checks, and waivers of lien are sent to Summer Corps for review. After a final site visit is conducted, the paperwork is then processed. The reimbursement check is usually available within 4 to 6 weeks. Unless DPD has granted an extension, the applicants who do not complete each stage within the required phase time limit will be disqualified and removed from the program. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? In order to determine whether or not your property is eligible, you can visit our website. Here we have a locator tool. Once you click on this locator tool, you can then enter the address to the property, and it will give you detailed information based on the specific property. So you'd enter the address there. The information then pops up. It looks like this screen here. It'll give you the name of the TIF district, the rollout dates, and also the delegate agency's contact information. What SBIF districts are open or on deck? Eligible SBIF districts in Chicago span neighborhoods on the north, south, and west sides. Each month marks a new 30-day period in which SBIF districts with available funds opens for applications. Notice of district openings are provided to relevant aldermen, posted on the DPD's and Summer Corps' website, and also included in the SBIFgram. You can visit our website at summercorps.com/SBIF for the most up-to-date list of open and on-deck districts. What are the SBIF program rules? Here we have a list of ineligible business types that do not qualify for the program. This list is not comprehensive. Please contact Summer Corps with any questions. Some of the ineligible businesses include chains and franchise businesses, places of worship, payday loan stores, private clubs, startup banquet halls, gas stations, tobacco dealers. These businesses do not qualify. If you're unclear, if your business is not listed here, you can always reach out to Summer Corps to seek clarification on eligibility. Eligible improvement cost. Again, this list is not all inclusive. If you have specific questions about something you are planning to do, you can always reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer your questions. Some of the things we cover include roofing and facade renovations, components of signs and awnings which are permanently affixed to the building, alterations or structures needed for ADA compliance, including railings or ramps, and also ADA accessible restrooms, HVAC and other mechanical systems, plumbing and electrical work, certain project-related architectural and construction management fees related to the project, permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, and the purchase of adjacent land parcels for purpose of expansion or parking. Ineligible improvement cost. SBIF does not cover new construction, whether it's an addition or an expansion or a build out from the ground up. Standalone minor repairs or cosmetic improvements. If these items are part of a larger project, they can be included. Standalone items like this will not be covered. Equipment-related expenses such as appliances, computers, and office furniture do not qualify. There are very few exceptions for restaurants and commercial kitchens where we do cover walk-in coolers, freezers, fire suppression systems, and exhaust hoods. Planters that are surrounding or affixed to the building. Any outdoor dining or drinking areas, including roof decks, beer gardens, outdoor patios, balconies, awnings, porches, and decks do not qualify for reimbursement through SBIF. Fencing, including pergolas, trellises, arbors, privacy screens, and similar structures, parking lot construction or repair, landscaping, and work on the interior units do not qualify for reimbursement. Design requirements. The applicants for commercial properties that are seeking a grant of $25,000 or greater are required to make at least one exterior improvement using at least 10% of the maximum grant amount. To receive project approval from DPD, the improvements must conform to DPD's design guidelines. The applicants are strongly advised to consult with Summer Corps and design professionals on design requirements and guidelines before drawing up plans for work. Key exterior guidelines reviewed during the approval stage include preserving or recreating the original design and window openings when possible, incorporating permanent signage to clearly identify the business, adequate lighting, especially near entrances to welcome customers, avoid window clutter. The windows should let in natural light and attract passerbys to the business. Please refer to the Department of Buildings guidelines on premises for on-premises window signs for more information. Other forms of security are preferred, but if necessary, only interior mounted security gates that are integrated into the storefront design will be reimbursed. Applicant compliance. Checks will be performed on all applicants during the approval stage to ensure that they're complying with child support laws and not indebted to the city. Any scofflaw debt must be cured to participate in SBIF. Applicants can cure the debt via a city payment plan. Applicants using a payment plan must be in compliance with that to receive any SBIF reimbursement funds. All applicants must be current on property taxes to receive the conditional commitment letter for funding or reimbursement for completed work. Each applicant must sign an economic disclosure affidavit. Grantees must sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business or property within a 3-year period following the disbursement of funds. To be reimbursed, landlord applicants must have an executed lease with a qualified tenant, and the tenant must be occupying and actively operating their business or not-for-profit out of the leased space. Getting started, how do you apply? You can visit our website to complete the SBIF application within the open acceptance period. Please allow 2 business days for Summer Corps to confirm receipt of your application via an email response. If you do not receive an email confirmation, please call the main line at 312-360-3300 or send an email to spiff@summercorps.com. Applicants are responsible for making sure the submissions are received within the open acceptance period. Applications received after 5 p.m. on the last day of acceptance period will not be eligible. What resources are available to help? These resources are available on our website to access resources to support your SBIF project. You can also connect with your local delegate agency for assistance in filling out your application. Here you'll find the SBIF locator tool, you'll find our program rules, a list of licensed contractors, SBIF lenders, the design guidelines, and various information for current applicants are available on our website as well. So one thing I do want to mention is the SBIF lenders list. It's a list of lenders that are familiar with SBIF and they've worked with our applicants in the past. So they are familiar with the process. They're willing to provide the upfront financing for you. And we can sign a bank assignment so that the proceeds of the grant go directly to the lender to pay off the majority of the loan if you qualify for 90%, and you would be responsible for paying off the remaining balance. So please keep that in mind. If you do not have financing available, don't let that deter you. However, we do suggest that you begin reaching out to lenders as soon as possible. What resources are available to help? As Nora mentioned, here we have a list of the delegate agencies for the districts that are open for the month of December. So they should be within the TIF district that you currently have your business operating out of. So it's someone nearby that you can reach out. Here's their contact info. So again, we will provide a list of this presentation to you so you can have this information available. Here we have a list of the December districts that are currently open. We are accepting applications through December 30th at 5 p.m. These districts include 35th and Halsted, 47th and Halsted, 67th and Wentworth, 95th and Western, and Ogden and Pulaski. Here we have a sample project. This is a landlord project in 47th and Halsted TIF district. The applicant was Jorge Torres, and he took this old automotive shop and made some repairs. He did some repairs on the interior and exterior. So here's what the property looked like before. And this is what the property looked like after. So big difference here. So keep this in mind as you're thinking of things that you may want to do. It's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of, your huge building systems, facades, things of that sort. Just make sure that everything's running properly. So the tenant of this landlord application is a cabinetry manufacturer. So the interior and exterior masonry work included some tuck pointing and replacing steel lintels. HVAC work, they installed 2 new heaters. They did some electrical work, including exterior lighting, interior LED lighting, new electrical panels, outlets, switches, and wiring, and the installation of 9 commercial ceiling fans, exit signs, and emergency lighting. We also covered their plumbing work, which included the installation of a water heater, plumbing connection for the hose bib, rot out the existing drains, and remodeled 2 restrooms. We also covered the installation of 2 overhead doors and 2 metal service doors. Here we have our SBIF facts. What additional documents should you have on hand to submit along with the SBIF application? While it's not required when submitting the initial application form, please note that these items are required to complete the SBIF application process. The required documents vary depending on applicant type. Once we begin processing the application, we will have some questions for you, and that will determine the applicant type. We will provide a list of the items that are necessary in order to complete your application. Some of these items are required to be submitted by you. Some of these forms, we have templates that will be provided to you to be completed and returned to us. So again, this list here does not apply to every applicant. But if you have a business, you file tax returns, we'll need 3 years business tax returns, licenses, and things of that sort. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups can apply. Startup applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of the business's income and expenses for its first 36 months of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with the startup business applications. If you've only been in business for 1 to 2 years, Summer Corps requires tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is where you have your business or your property. To participate in SBIF, your property must be in the City of Chicago, as the funding source comes from the City of Chicago property taxes. If your business or property is in another area, please call that city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small businesses. What if my building has both business and residential spaces? This program is for business use, but there are mixed-use exceptions. Many envelope projects such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Can SBIF be used with other City of Chicago grant programs? No. SBIF cannot be used at the same time as other financial assistance programs like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or the Chicago Recovery Plan grants on the same project covering the same work. However, you may apply for multiple grants at the same time and select the best fit for your project, provided that you stay within the grant timeline requirements. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each TIF district that has the SBIF program authorized in it has limited funds reserved for the program. If the demand for the SBIF funds is greater than the available funding supply, then a lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant application may be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to waitlisted applicants. Is there SBIF funding available in my district? Every SBIF area has its own budget that the city refills if it has TIF funds available and if there's a demonstrated need for more grant money. We also maintain an interested parties list for funds, which you can also send an email to spiff@summercorps.com to join. When more funding becomes available or the city allocates more funding, we'll let you know. The interested parties list helps the city of Chicago gauge demand for additional funding. What if I'm in a TIF and it is not a SBIF? Tax increment financing, known as TIF, is the mechanism that funds the Small Business Improvement Fund program. If you are in a TIF district and it does not have a SBIF, please contact your alderman. Here we have a list of our contact information for the SBIF team, as well as Nora Curry, director on the City of Chicago's DPD side. We do have two websites that covers SBIF information. The city's chicago.gov/SBIF application. This does have the Google Translate available on it. There are resources available in other languages, so please feel free to visit that website to translate in just about any other language. So you can visit the website to see what they have available. A copy of the presentation and a link to the video will be emailed to all attendees. Again, thank you for attending. We can go ahead and get started with the live question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. That was very helpful. Once again, if you have any questions at this time, please ensure to place them within the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. So typically, to start off, can you list some common challenges that applicants face within this program?
Sure. So the biggest challenge is financing because this is a reimbursement grant. That's typically one of the biggest challenges for small businesses. So I would, as I mentioned previously, get started with that process. If you don't have funds readily available to you, it's best to get started with that so that it doesn't interfere with your timeline to complete the construction. You want to be able to have your funding in place and then not have to, use any extensions or delay the projects so that you can get the financing in place. Another challenge is finding good contractors and architects. We require at least 2 competitive bids along with their license and insurance from the contractors. We always suggest that you obtain several bids, communicate with different people. You get the feel for how communicative they are, their knowledge of the program, not necessarily the program, I should say, rather the work that they're seeking, that you are seeking for them to do. So biggest challenges, I would say, finding good contractors and architects and making sure that you have financing in place.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's get started with some other questions. This did come up during your presentation. What would you suggest to a startup business that has not secured a property yet? And do you know the best way that they can go about finding a property suitable for their business?
I would reach out to a real estate agent. That would probably be the first step to let them know what it is that you're looking for, and they can assist on the back end on that. You want to make sure that, as you're looking at the properties, you can also check simultaneously with the SBIF locator tool to make sure that it's in a SBIF district. So you don't want to put your focus on finding an area that's in a TIF district. That should not be your sole purpose. Your sole purpose should be to find a place that works for you. And if SBIF is eligible in that area, great. If not, then there may be other resources that are available to you, but it's very complicated to try to work with finding a property in a TIF district because it's not always guaranteed. You may find a property in a TIF, but it may not have funding available, or we may have a wait list there. So I would suggest to find something that works for you. Start off with reaching out to local real estate agents that may be able to provide assistance for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question, someone mentioned that, well, they asked if they can change the need for the grant if they've already put something on the initial application. So I guess when they submitted their application, they listed some scope of work, but I guess something has changed or they want to see if they can increase that amount on their initial application. How can they go about that?
So if it's for an application that was submitted just recently for the December openings, you can submit a revised application. That should include the updated scope of work that you're looking to do and an estimated cost. I always suggest that you estimate on the higher end. That change must be done before the end of the month, before the acceptance period ends. Otherwise, you may be held to that specific amount that you initially requested.
Okay. The next question is, are startup businesses eligible for funding?
Yes, startup businesses are eligible. You will be required to submit a detailed business plan as well as projections of income and expenses for the next 36 months. And you must have a City of Chicago business license prior to final disbursement.
All right, thank you for that. Someone asked the question about if they have a building that is zoned M1-2, is that classified as industrial?
I could not answer that question for you.
Ultimately, I guess the best way to probably put it is how can they determine if, I guess how they would be eligible, whether it's commercial or industrial.
So the biggest focus right now would be whether or not the property is in a TIF district or not. So we can look further into whether the property and or business is commercial or industrial and work with them on that. My concern with these sorts of situations is whether or not the property is zoned for what you're looking to do. We've had some cases where a zoning change is required. If that is the case, then unfortunately we cannot proceed with the application until that zoning change is complete. Then you could submit an application when the district reopens. But because of the timing, it usually takes well over a year, sometimes over 2 years to get the zoning change. So we cannot allow the application to remain active during that time.
Okay, got it. Um, I think this was a follow-up question to the original question of are startups eligible for funding? They indicated, for example, if they find a property to open up a daycare facility that needs work to be done, would that qualify for submitting an application?
It would qualify, however, you do have to have site control during the stage one process. Site controls meaning that you have to basically either have an executed lease agreement for a minimum of 3 years going forward, or you have to either own the property, one or the other. So if you don't have site control, then we cannot keep the application active. So if you're currently looking to lease the space, I don't want to say you need to hurry up and sign a lease, but you want to get that lease negotiations in process so that you can have an executed lease agreement if we're able to move forward with the application. So typically we allow 20 days to submit application items, which include the proof of site control. We do also require an affidavit to be completed by the landlord, which basically gives you authorization to make changes to their property.
Okay, got it. The next question is, someone is a general contractor and they're asking if they can be their own contractor for their project.
No, unfortunately not. You cannot act as your own contractor. You will need to hire a third party company that does not have any ownership in your business. And we do require at least 2 competitive bids. One cannot be your own business.
Okay, thank
It
you for
cannot come from your own business.
um So there was another follow-up question as it related to finding a property that's suitable for their business. They were asking if a real estate agent can help their business find financial resources. So I'm not sure if this is in regards to securing the property, whether through lease or through purchase.
Well, they can definitely assist with that. You know, a lot of the real estate agents know about SBIF, so they relay that information to some of their clients. 504 can also provide funding to acquire the property. Summer Corps administers the SBA 504 program, so please keep that in mind if you're looking to purchase the property. But as far as leasing, the real estate agents may have resources available to help.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I believe this is all of the questions that were posted for us today. I would like to thank everyone for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us by email at at spiff@summercore.com, or you can reach out to us by phone at 312-360-3312, 3300, and we can assist you accordingly. And again, a copy of this presentation will be emailed out to you following the webinar being over. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.